allowed to ask where you got that sweatsuit?
Jordan Brand, Friggy. I've had that question quite a bit.
Good morning. Whenever y'all ready.
Coach, is there any secret to getting? We've seen Jizzle play well, like he did, 2 nights ago. Dan play well, Seamus play well. What's the secret to getting those guys going at the same time? Because that feels like it hasn't happened yet in conference play.
Yeah, well, I think that means that there's a lot of better basketball in front of us. You know, if that, I agree with you. But getting everybody to, play closer to their potential collectively in league, we don't feel like that's happened yet, and I think that's a positive way of looking at it, because that means we're going to be playing some better basketball when it does happen. And if there's a secret sauce to how to do that, I'd already used it. But I think, like anything, it's a trivial answer, but it's the truth. Is you keep grinding at it every day. You keep coming here to work, and the good thing is we had a stretch there where it didn't feel like anybody was playing very well. Now you're starting to see some guys break out and look like themselves again. We just got to keep on keeping on, and I think I was disappointed, as you guys know, with the outcome of the Texas Tech game. I was disappointed with the defense, the rebounding, the loose balls, and that type of thing. But I do think over the last 3 games, we're starting to play better basketball as a team. So when you look at it over the last 3, there's some things that are happening in a positive way.
I went home and watched BYU Colorado that night. How are they compared to Texas Tech as a three-point shooting team?
Very prolific, like Texas Tech, in that sense, Scott. They just, as you saw that game, I watched it as well. They can rain threes like Texas Tech can do. They probably get to them slightly differently, but the same thing. You got to get set in transition, not give them up. You can't give them up on offensive rebounds like we did against Texas Tech. And they're, again, their style of play is subtly or significantly different, but the same idea. You got to guard the three-point line.
Obviously, offense before last game, it wasn't up to par, and you kind of emphasized that. Did you kind of see a natural thing of when the players put pressure on being better offensively, that the defense might have suffered a little bit?
It's probably a pretty easy conclusion to come to when you've been really consistent for the most part defensively, and you've had a lid on it, and then all of a sudden the lid comes off a little bit, and then you're not good defensively. I don't know if it's that simple, but the fact of the matter is we got to try to put 40 minutes together in the aspects that we can be good in and the aspects that we value, and we didn't do that in the last game. But again, I think of the last 3, hopefully we're getting some confidence as a group that we're trending the right direction.
Coach, you talk about defending the three-point line. Trevor Nell is a guy who kind of lit things up for BYU last time you guys were out in Provo with 9 threes. Talk about what he's able to do.
Yeah, he's a guy that every time he comes off a screen, every time he catches the ball in transition or just around some of the action they run, he's a guy that can just rise up and shoot it even when you're right there and you're guarding him. We've seen that before. I think he did that all year in league as well. Obviously coaching change, the styles change a little bit, but the way that some of those returning players are playing within the new program is very, very similar to how they played last year with a different coach. So they're still playing very similarly, those returning guys, in terms of the way that they're looking for their shot or playing aggressively, especially off the three-point line.
Has there been a glaring issue with getting out rebounded over the last 5 games? Has there been an issue that stood out on tape with your guys on your end?
Yeah, physicality. That's been a glaring weakness. Going after loose balls with 2 hands, 2 feet. I mean, you can't reach for a loose ball. You got to take your body to a loose ball. It's like a fumble in football. You might pick up a fumble with 2 hands. That ain't good enough. You got to take your whole body and put it on it. And I think some Some of the rebounding stuff is technique. Some of it's physicality. Some of it is habit of going to the offensive board, which is been really poor recently. And then some of it is going to get the damn thing, and just securing the damn ball.
What's the challenge as a staff? The offense, you need to get the offense on track, so you spend a bunch of time in practice on offense to still keep the things that you do well, the defense, the rebounding, where maybe it's not as much of a focus in practice. Not saying it's not a focus, but you're spending more time on the offense to stay sharp in those areas that are your backbone, while you're also working to increase the things that are not where you want them.
Yeah, I think that's two things. You have limited practice time with the so does everybody. This again, I'm not complaining and whining, not doing that. I'm just answering the question. I try to be very respectful and always answer your questions honestly. I think first off, you have limited practice time. So how you allocate that practice time is extremely important in terms of the practice planning. And you mentioned it. You can't lose sight of the things that you're doing well and the things that you've created some identity on. So you have to keep touching on those. And then you have to keep attacking things that you have to improve or you have to evolve and address. And you still have to prepare for the next opponent. So the allocation of that is a puzzle, and that's our job as coaches, to put that puzzle together as best as we can. Our players need to make sure that we maximize with intention and seriousness and focus every single minute that we have out there, because again, that time is limited in conference play, especially given our league schedule this year.
And then Wes, obviously you mentioned Tuesday night after the game that Aziz was a little banged up there heading into Texas Tech. Do you just have an update on him heading into this, and how did he respond after Tuesday night?
I actually haven't seen him yet. We were off yesterday due to NCAA rules. He was in there this morning getting treatment, and went through his strength conditioning workout, but I have not seen him yet on the floor in practice. So knowing him and some of the things that he's dealt with the back before, my guess is he's not 100% today, and we'll make sure we make the right decisions and manage that the right way, and see if we can do our job to get him in the best shape we can get him in for the game at BYU on Saturday.
You didn't see as much of Saunders last year, and then they've got the new kid Igor that seems to be a pretty good passer. What are your thoughts on those two?
Yeah, Saunders is so aggressive on the catch. That's what I've seen. He does a great job of attacking closeouts and straight line driving, and his floater has become so dynamic. You've just seen that develop. He's always had a lot of game, but he can shoot the ball, and again, he's playing with those returning players are playing very similar with the freedom to catch and shoot that they did last year in all situations. So you have to be alert to his shooting, but he's doing a great job of straight line driving and attacking. And if he can't get to the basket or make the right decision, he's got a nice floater push shot from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 feet that looks extremely consistent. He even does a good job of drawing fouls doing that. The freshman, I don't want to mispronounce his name. He's terrific. We've seen, if you're a freshman that's impacting this league, you're terrific. He's terrific, and I think people have him slated as a high draft choice. And you can see why when you watch tape. He's like a point guard. I haven't seen him in person, but it looks like he's got great size, 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", something like that. And just a really seasoned player. He's already played EuroLeague basketball and all that kind of stuff. So he's a very, very good player and does a really good job of facilitating offense in the pick and roll for their team.
Can you kind of explain, going back to the practice question, the allotment of practice that you guys have in a certain time frame and kind of how it's changed over the years?
What do you mean? Like in what sense?
Like you say practice is limited. Like how do you have to split up how much you practice in a given week, or how has it changed?
Yeah, it's so It's simple. I mean, last year we played 18 league games in 10 weeks. Now we're playing 20 league games in 10 weeks. So that just more games where there were some buys last year. And then when you have a bye, you might have a 5 or 6 day stretch without a game, and you could kind of get back to some preseason type practice, at least the length, maybe address some things or spend more time on some things. I think when you're playing a game, every 2 or 3 days, and look, we played Tuesday, Saturday, so I understand people go, well, my math ain't that bad, but because of they have to have an off day, you're generally either 2 days out from a game when you're practicing or 1 day out, and you're obviously cognizant of their body and their legs and that type of stuff, because you don't want to run them into the ground, because again, 20 league games, I think that's a trick too, that you're still fresh in February, into January, February. So I just think it's a different dynamic. Again, this isn't complaining, because it's what everybody has to deal with. We knew that, all fall, and we talked about that a lot. It's why we worked really hard on some of our foundational principles, even into December, in ways that we wouldn't, because we knew we wouldn't have as much practice time after Christmas. But when you want to make some adjustments and changes, that's probably where it's a little bit more difficult than a year that you're playing 18 league games after Christmas.
Coach Williams was here the other night. Losing sucks. Does he help comfort you at all after games like that?
Yeah, there's nothing that you can help with how you affected by losing. We're all so highly competitive. We all take it hard. But so again, answer your question directly. I don't know about all that, but I've been incredibly fortunate that there's some people in my life as mentors and that have helped me grow as a coach and are still helping me grow as a coach, that are people like Coach Williams, and sometimes people think that it's easy to say that because he's a Hall of Famer and all that kind of stuff, and I played for him, but he's actually very present in my life as a coach, which is special for me. Not just showing up, but on the phone and watches all of our games and all that kind of stuff. That's fortunate.
How would you assess the screening from your offense over the past couple games?
Inconsistent. There's some times that you can replay the game and you'll see some really effective, not just screening's two guys working together, right? So setting a screen is important, but using a screen and setting up a screen is equally as important. So it's not always just the screener, it's both guys. And I think you'll see some times where that dynamic, whether it's in pick and roll or in a pin down or a flare or back screen, I think you'll see some examples where that stuff is executed at a high level, and I think you can see some examples where it's not. And that's the execution side of things that we'll attack when we get on the practice floor today.
When you have a guy like Dan that gets hurt and misses the time that he did, mm-hmm. and then you see kind of the inconsistent play, people are going to wonder, is it still bothering him? What's the nature of that? But is it something for him where it's just refinding that rhythm, or is it something that he's going to have to deal with all year?
Yeah, I think first of all, he's healthy. He's healthy. I don't think there's any question on his health. He feels 100%. He's not favoring his knee or anything like that. But the second thing I'd say is, it's college basketball at this level. It's a long year. There's ebbs and flows. There's ebbs and flows physically. Connor Hickman's been out for a while, for example. I have complete belief in Dan's ability. I know he didn't play his best game against Texas Tech. I have complete belief in his ability. He'll respond. Dan will play elite basketball this year. You guys are asking about Jizzle's shooting, for a while now, and he shot it well, here the other night. So it's the same thing. It's not something that I'm worried about. I think the sooner that all these guys can play their best basketball, the better it is for for our basketball team, but I have complete confidence and belief in all of them.
As a follow-up, especially rebounding, which has kind of been his, greatest natural ability, that hasn't been up to his past standards. How do you get him back on track there, or are you using him in different ways where he's maybe getting back to defend or being used to kind of try to start transition offense? Is it different because you're using him in a different way?
No, we have to do a better job of him making sure that he's playing to one of the things that was always his greatest strength, right? His game has evolved, he's matured, he's worked at his game, so we're not going to hold him back. But at the same time, when he was 17 years old, and we saw him down at Under Armour with Philly Pride, the first thing that stuck out was going and getting every damn ball off the board. And he's been able to do that in this league. He's been able to do that his whole career, and we got to get back to doing that because it's so impactful for him and our team.
You guys won in the altitude in Boulder. Mike Rayfeld, I assume, has done some things to prepare you guys for the 2 Utah games?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about I don't really know that. Let me just say it like this before I stumble over my words, but when it comes to the stuff that happens, strength conditioning or sports performance, it's an area that I don't have to micromanage at all, because the guy that runs that area does it at the highest level. So I have no idea if he does anything different or not for an altitude game. But I know this, our guys are getting the best physical preparation that you can get because of the guy that leads them down there. And so I don't have an answer, but I also don't poke my nose in there. He says we need a lift, we lift. He says we need to do something, we do something. He says we need to eat, we eat. That's how much I trust him.
The 2-game trip, what are the challenges of that? I've talked to a lot of coaches about it. They say that second one is harder because it's not in your normal routine. Like, you're going to be in your routine for Utah. You fly out tomorrow. It's late, so maybe a little different during the day. But what are the challenges of being gone for 5 days and squeezing 2 games in?
I don't know. We haven't experienced it before, but I was listening to Mick's press conference the other day, but he said it's a lot easier going west. So I'm hoping that wasn't like rhetoric, that was accurate. So maybe it'll be easier going out west. But I don't know, guys. As I have more experience doing that kind of thing, I could probably answer the question better. I don't want to give you hot air. My focus is on what we can control right now, and I don't have any experience with 5-6 day road swings, but people do it successfully in the NBA all the time. People do it all throughout college basketball now, so I haven't put a lot of thought into it.
You're not going to 70 in LA, though.
Yeah, he did say that, yeah. My guess is Salt Lake and Provo is a little colder in LA.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Mike.